Welcome everyone to this week's edition of Title Tuesday. I'm your host GM Benjamin Bok. It's my pleasure to bring you all the action of this week. So we see that Hikaru is playing. Let's see if we can pull up his game. He's playing against Daisy Corey from Peru. Um. I guess I thought he was playing a tournament, but they might have delayed it. Anyway, this is one of his pet lines in the against the fianchetto in the King's Indian, where he goes for a quick queen c8 and bishop to h3, and h5, h4. This is how he very often plays these types of positions. So let's see how Daisy Corey, she goes queen to d3, maybe after h4 she wanted to take, e5 played by Hikaru, striking in the center. Interesting approach here. So yeah, Hikaru wants to imbalance the game right away, I'd assume, and get a fighting position. So let's see how this one is going to go. We see a trade on e5, okay, and bishop g5 by Daisy. Okay, so f6 by. Wait, can you? If you take, you slide the king over, and there's always bishop to f5. So then the queen will be trapped. Right, if takes, we slide the king over. The bishop is under attack. If the bishop drops back, there's bishop f5. Some nice tactics here. And if you drop the bishop back right away after knight g7, black should have a fine position. Black has more space in the center, and really nothing to worry about. We're getting word that he's joining to play 2 rounds. So he's trolling. Alright, so she did take on g6, king to f8. And now, yeah, if you move the bishop, there's there's bishop f5. Making sure the queen cannot escape. So let's see what Daisy will do here. She takes on f6, but it doesn't feel correct. You can take with the knight or with the bishop, both should be good for black. He takes with the bishop. I guess he wants to go bishop f5, still a threat. There is knight at g5 to threaten checkmate, but black should be able to defend against that. Maybe just take the knight or something. So let's see how this one is going to proceed. Knight g5 by Daisy on the board. Hikaru takes. Queen f5 looks very safe. Yep. On the board, queen e3. I guess just knight f6. h4, also fine move. Making progress there on the king side. Knight d2 by Daisy and knight f6 by Hikaru. Yeah, it feels like he's just up a full piece and that white doesn't have sufficient compensation. So he trades on g3, opening up files towards the white king. White recaptures with the f-pawn. Okay, now white could maybe potentially use the f-file to attack the king, but black's king should be perfectly safe. So I do expect Hikaru to win this one. But you never know. It's always at the end of the day, it is blitz. You know, we've seen crazier things happen. But let's see how this one is going to proceed. Rook f8, bishop g2. Hikaru's up a rook now. And e4, trading off the queens. Generally, if your own material trades are good, and Hikaru uses that strategy right here, he knows like, okay, if you trade the queens, I'm not going to checkmate her, but I'll get into an endgame up a full rook, and that should be an easy win for Hikaru. And there we have it. Hikaru does win his game. Good result for him. Okay, so let's see what other games there are to watch. We have Mishanik, Alexis Arana playing with the white piece. Not an easy game. Materials equal right now. Maybe white's a little bit better because his bishop is blocked in. And that gives white checkmating ideas like rook b1. If the rook ever lands on the 8th rank, it's practically checkmate because you have to give the bishop. So maybe king g7, bishop f8 played, c6. Alright, yeah, so now after this trade, white is hitting the pawn on a6, but also the pawn on f6. So Sarana should win a pawn here. There's rook a4 though. Probably rook a4 has to be played, takes. Maybe king g8 then. I don't see what white is doing there. Because this pawn is going to be lost, so... Okay, rook a4 on the board. Yeah, I think this is tough for Sarana. He takes a pawn on f6, hitting the bishop, but I'd assume king g8 or king g7 should be perfectly safe. So let's see. Yeah, would be already... I mean, an upset is too strong of a word, but you know, definitely a disappointing result for Serrana. He's rated at a hefty 3070. So then you want nothing else than a win in the first round. Rook c6, taking the pawn. Rook c8, king f7, of course. Rook c7, king back. Yeah, he's gonna try like king g2, maybe set these pawns in motion, but it's gonna be very difficult. I guess black is indeed just gonna push the pawn all the way up to a3, maybe move the rook and then go a2. Rook c8, but yeah, just king f7. There's nothing white can do. And is he just gonna take the draw here? Goes bishop e3, yeah. Okay, a4. Yeah, there's really nothing black can do wrong. You just push this pawn all the way up to a3, and nothing that can ever happen. a3 on the board, king f3, rook c2, I guess, yeah, and a2. The only thing though for black is that after a2, okay, rook c4 played, king e3. Should be a draw, but still white's gonna push these pawns forward, and black only has 20 seconds, so let's see. h5, okay, that is a fine move. It weakens a g6 pawn, but that can always be defended. So king d3 by Serrana, I guess, rook to c1. Now actually after rook a6 you want to play king h7, because if you go here there's rook f6. He gives a check first, king e4 I guess. Goes king e3. King h7 looks very safe. Don't go here because of rook f6. If you go here, you hang the pawn. If you go here, you get into a discovery. King h7 played, yeah. Should be a draw, but only 9 seconds for black. King e4. Serrana trying to squeeze water from a stone here. Rook to d2. If rook a8, there's still bishop g7, because this hangs the bishop on d4. So I don't think there is anything for white here, but Serrana is going to try though. Black only has 8 seconds. King e3 played. Rook moves to c2. Okay, now rook a8 looks tricky. Rook a8 looks tricky, because if here, rook a7, you have bishop c... Oh, rook h8 checkmate! 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 Rook h8 checkmate! Wait, what is he thinking about? Holy smokes. Black suddenly blundered checkmate and won. No way. Now, it was tricky because black only had 7 seconds. If you go bishop to g7, there's rook a7 and you lose your bishop. But I think the only move to hang on here is king to g8. White doesn't have bishop c5 because the square is covered and it's just a draw. But hanging checkmate is never a good idea. Alright, here we see Aram Hakobian closing out this game. He has 2 queens, and indeed there we have a checkmate on the board. Let's see, we have Andrakin. Andrakin getting the win here. He's up 2 pawns, pushing his pawns all the way up the board. I guess you just... Okay, rook h4, nice move. Building a bridge here, so to speak, and now you just push this pawn. It's an easy win here for Andrakin. He's going to win the first round. So king g6, just king g5. You can pre-move this at this point. But yeah, Andrakin getting the first round win as well. Let's see what other games we have. I guess this is Purun. He's up a bishop and a pawn, so this should be a win. But of course, when he's playing on seconds, it's never over just yet. But we'll see how he will close this one out. g4, not a huge fan of that move, because black can always camp on the dark squares. He goes there. King to g2. Not the most convincing. Okay, it's gonna be a win. Just push up the board. And there we go. So Purun also wins his first game. Let's have a look at Demchenko. Demchenko has won Title Tuesdays in the past. He's trying to squeeze out a win here in a very exciting opposite color bishop endgame. Black has to be very precise here, holding on the dark squares. Bishop a3, bishop e4 only move. Bishop h3, king e6, and bishop d6. Bishop h2, very important to put the bishop now on this diagonal. And now bishop a3. This is indeed the drawing mechanism. So it's a very tricky endgame here. Let's see if Demchenko can squeeze out a win, or if this one will end in a draw. He's playing it out till the 3-time repetition, and there we have a draw on the board. Okay, let's see. We have one more game going on. Another. This one, in all seriousness, is a bit more close, but it is a draw. because white cannot overcome the dark squares. Right, like there's no entry squares here on the queen side. You cannot enter through the king side. So just king e7. He's gonna go king here, but then you just move the bishop. It's literally pre-moving everything now. But you just sit with the bishop, and there's nothing that can happen to black. Okay, he hung the pawn, but it wasn't taken. But yeah, you just move back and forth with the bishop. Okay, he's gonna move his king around here, but still you just sit with the bishop on b8, and there's nothing that can happen. Now you move the king back and forth. And I guess he's gonna play it out till 50 moves. And there we have a draw on the board. All right, so round number 2 is gonna start shortly. Let's have a very quick look at the standings. We see that most of the favorites did win their first game. We see Hikaru, Mishinik. We saw him squeezing water from a stone there. David Howell, who won last week, I believe. Then we have Van der Reen, Champ, Rasmus Svane, and Eric Hansen. So yeah, those will be the main players to look out for in round number 2. And we are off. We see that Hikaru choosing a he through a different move order, it transitioned into a Slav Moran. Goes g4, dc. Okay, something like g5 is theory here, or just recapturing the pawn. But these tend to get pretty wild, so let's see how this one is going to proceed. He goes g5, hitting the knight. Knight has to go to d5. I guess takes now. e5 by black, striking in the center. He takes on d5. Okay, but you cannot take. Queen a5 and you lose. Wait, did he blunder here? You cannot take. Because then you have a check and you lose your bishop. And if you go bishop back, there's e4. Carl's in trouble here. Bishop e3 play, but e4, knight moves, queen takes g5. That's just a healthy extra pawn and an attack for black. It's not looking good for Hikaru. I mean, black is knight at f6 and just a huge attack on the king side, really. What is white even gonna do there? This is knight e5 played. Okay, but okay, if you take now, there might be this. Maybe take with the bishop and then knight takes, trying to hop into the f3 square. But this should be winning for black. Let's see if Hacking Kid can actually win, which is, you know, getting a winning position is one thing, but actually finishing it off is another thing. So knight takes e5 on the board. He wants to go knight at d3, knight at f3, f4 by Hikaru. Black has en passant, but that might not even be the best move. There's also knight d3 or knight f3, but let's see which one Hacking Kid is going to choose. Hikaru, even though he's only down a pawn, the evil bar is showing minus 7.8. That is a lot. Knight d3 chosen by Hacking Kid. Okay, bishop h3 and rook c8, something like that looks crushing. King has to slide over. Rook to c8. You have to go queen to d2 and then something like queen d7. And then just entering through the g4 square. This should be winning. Should be completely over, because also after rook c8, queen d2, white doesn't have any moves. White is just completely stuck with his back against the wall. Also something like h6. Just chipping away with the pawns. There should be a win. So yeah, very tough game here for Hikaru. Let's see if he can survive. But yeah, I don't know. Rook c8 on the board, hitting the queen. Queen to d1. Let's see, is there a win here for black? Not that I can tell right off. I think something like h6 is still very strong. Just chipping away at the pawns here. Okay, he castles. Okay, now it's only minus 8.5. I think h6 would have been better, but it's whatever. If you can somehow get a queen check on this file, it will be pretty much checkmate. Okay, bishop c2 played. Let's see, there's many moves here for black. There's also knight takes f4. Knight takes f4 could be a nice move. Wait, knight takes f4, because if you take, this is kind of checkmate. Because you don't have a good way. Shoot, kind of dry errors. Because you don't have a good way to block on the diagonal. You do have king f2, but looking very, very tough here for Hikaru. He's up a minute though on the clock. You never know. Negative 19. It's a lot. Okay. But 40 seconds for black. You gotta go, dude. He takes on c2. Queen takes. Okay, queen e7 now. Queen g4 is a checkmating threat, so queen c2. Queen e2 played by Hikaru. Rook c8. Rook c2 looks crushing. Bishop d2, rook c2, because then you threaten the take. And queen g4. c2 looks crushing. Once again, white is just... Even though white is up in exchange, look at this rook here on h1. It's completely boxed in. It can never move. Bishop g4. Looks like a clean win. Queen f1. Bishop f3, or just take. I'll be shocked if Hikaru can pull off a miracle here, but only 18 seconds for black. Bishop h3, queen e2. Okay, I thought... Wait, 11 seconds. You never know. Queen g4 is also winning, yeah. Trade. Now this is gonna drop off and literally everything is collapsing. King g2, but take takes, knight takes b2 is lights out. Rook c1. Take king g3, Hikaru with the pre-moves, but I mean, he's down a knight and 2 pawns. This is h4. h5 pushing up the board. He's trying to make a miracle happen here, but it feels like it's just way too much. Taking a pawn. f6, h6 by Hikaru. King g6, h7. I mean, it's just way too much material. And with the 1 second increment, he cannot flag his opponent. But you never know. It's never over until it's over. Okay, Hikaru snapping off pawn on b7. But e3, this pawn is pushing up the board. There's no way he can survive this. King to d6, and now e2 is going to come. King g4, knight e5 check. And there we go. Hikaru loses. Round number 2. Tough. Yeah, he made a blunder there in the opening, and he never got a chance to recover. So, yeah, let's see how Howell is doing. Howell is winning because he has a bunch of pawns, and he's about to win back the bishop. Queen takes c3, take another... Oh, you can take literally everything with check. Check, and then take here with check. In fact, he's even pre-moving it. Yeah. And he has a comfortable 1 minute against just a couple seconds and white flags. So nice win here by Howell against a fellow Englishman. So let's see. We also have Raunak Sadwani. Okay. Rook h5, king up, I'd assume. Looking... Okay, Raunak trying to squeeze out a win here. He's more active here with the king. He wants to take on f3. There goes the pawn. Rook f5 maybe. Rook takes f6. But the black king is so active that even if you lose his pawn, like, you're so far advanced off the board, probably take an e4. He gives a check first, rook to d2. Give me one, bishop a3, nice move, boxing in the king. And, oh, he's starting check and mate, and there's nothing I can do. Before, maybe just a4, closing the mating net. Yeah, and still check and mate is a threat that looks unstoppable. White having 5 seconds. Rook f1, but it's just a free rook. Takes it. Knight f5. Just move the king back. Yeah, there he goes. King to d3. And rook d1 is going to be checkmate on the next move. And Raunak wins his second game as well. Moving to 2 out of 2. Let's have a look at Rasmus Svane, who recently competed at the World Blitz Championship. But here he is down 2 pawns. This should be a win for black. But it's never... Okay, he goes rook e1. If black can go here... Yeah, this is a win. F5 and F4, King G6. Wait, he might have messed this up. Because white is being tricky here with the king. He takes, but take. Wait, is this a... Wait, just King E6 maybe? But King D8? No, but King D7 now. Okay, but now just push the pawn. Just push the pawn. Rasmus pre-moving, which signals some... What? What happened there? What? Dude. This is... Holy smokes. How lucky can you be? I mean, after F2, after F2, I would just resign. Wait, what happened there? Black has 4 bars. Did he just forget about the time? What happened there? It's this very low lag. What happened? How did black disconnect? Anyway, very lucky win for Rasmus. Let's have a look at Parham. Parham trying to squeeze out a win here. He has a queen and a pawn versus a queen. Very tricky to defend in a time scramble, because you have to figure out the right checks. But it's not easy to advance this pawn. But okay, black might be running out of checks here, because if check, b6, and this pawn is getting pretty far advanced. Oh, queen b5, queen b5, that's game over. Yep, he gets a queen trade in, then this pawn is just going to promote, and that's an easy win for Parham. So Parham winning this game. Let's have a look. We still have Elham. Elham trying to squeeze out a win here. Is he trying to win or just... Nah. It's just... Nah, this game is about to finish up. It's of course a draw. White is an extra pawn, but that is of no use. This pawn is going to get traded off. And just gonna end peacefully. King g4. Let's see. Okay. Elham is playing for the win. He's not exchanging the rooks right away. Rook h3. 5. King f4. At some point you do have to take the pawn though. And then he will try to win rook versus rook. King f2. King e2. Yeah, this is the last game of the round, but of course this is just going to end in a draw. Let's see if... Yeah, and we have a draw on the board. Alright. So Elham moving to 1.5 out of 2. So round number 3 is going to start pretty soon. Let's have a very quick look at the standings. We see that Mishanik is still in a perfect score. Also, Van der Reen, Jacobian, also fellow Dutchman Groovy Cattle on a perfect score. So yeah, round number 3 is going to start shortly, and we are off. So we see Mishanik playing with the white pieces, having a Nimzo here. Let's see how he will approach this one. So bishop d3, maybe knight g2 or knight f3, keeping his options open. He's playing against a fellow Russian player, Pavel Shkapenko. Black taking his time here, move like castles looks natural, or taking in d5. Many ways to play the Nimzo, which is why people generally like it. It gives black a lot of flexibility. Anyway, so black is thinking here. It's taking a little bit too long, I would think. I think that he should just move. Trade on d4. And indeed we do have word that, yeah, Hikaru just played those 2 games. So now he is off to other commitments. Okay, so knight g2 on the board. Castles. Usually white castles, bishop c2 and queen d3 is natural here. Knight c6 on the board. I think bishop c2 and queen d3 is usually how to play it. He goes a3. Bishop's probably going to drop back to e7. Position is approximately equal, but white is up almost a minute on the clock. So that is really white's main advantage. We see a trade on d5, bishop e3 by Mishanik. Guess he wants to go knight f4. White is having a slightly more comfortable position, but the structure is kind of symmetrical. So let's see how black is going to develop. Maybe bishop to g4. He goes bishop c7. Okay, nice move. Maybe queen h4. He goes h3. Once again, white is maybe only marginally better, but he's up so much time that is also definitely a factor. So let's see how this one is going to proceed. Okay, so queen f6 on the board by black. Queen b3. Okay, so queen b3 is slightly awkward to me. This pawn is under attack, but black fine. Okay, but bishop f5, can't you just take and take on b7? That looks like a free pawn. And indeed he goes for it. Queen is... Okay, so now you cannot take the knight, because bishop h2, check on the king and you lose your queen. But rook c1 play by Serrano. Okay, but now you can take. Because after bishop h2, take, black, white has a rook and 2 minor pieces for the queen, which is more than enough. And indeed the evil bar is showing a huge advantage, +4 for white. Black taking the pawn, but that should not be enough Rook c1 could be a nice move, threatening a back rank checkmate. He goes knight to g3, hitting the queen. Now rook c1. This is a threat, so black has to make some loot for the king. I don't think he rage quit. He just had other commitments, I believe. Rook f8, hitting the pawn. King g6 on the board. Rook takes a7. And really anything is winning here. Taking on f7 is a clean win, because after trade, you take an h5, and white has 3 pawns. And this pawn on d5 is also just going to drop off. So Michanik is gonna win this game and move to 3 out of 3. This is another pawn, but it was not taken. He's pushing up the board. He's probably going to create a passer on the queen side. Yeah. So Sarana is going to win this game. Just advance up the board. The nice thing here is that everything is protected in the white position. It's literally impossible to blunder anything. Just g4, g5, h5, knight e6, also nice move, picking out this pawn. And there we have the resignation. So Sarana moves to 3 out of 3. Let's have a look at Howell's game, who's also still on a perfect score. He's playing here against a Polish GM. I don't know who this is, but this knight on h3 is a little bit trapped. It's still defended by the queen, but if white can go something like f4, trade of the queens, and this pawn will drop, this knight will drop off the board. So g5 is played, so f4 can be met with g4. Let's see how white is going to proceed. g4 is a move, but then queen h4. So d5, take, d6 is now a major threat. Opening up the position, knight g6 played by black. Queen d4 looks like a nice move. Threatening knight f6, maybe lining it up with the bishop. But black still has here, hitting the pawn on f3. Let's see how Howell's going to proceed here. It should be winning, but he still has to close this one out. He goes queen to d4. Okay, rook a f8, I'd assume. Should be 2. Looks pretty good, but it's not over just yet. He still has to close this one out. Indeed, we're having word that a lot of top GMs are playing a great tournament. Okay, so rook a8 on the board, bishop e2, rook e3, defending the pawn, d6. Aha, but now black gets knight e5. The knight on e5 will be nicely anchored in. It's blocking the diagonal, it's attacking the pawn. This one is really getting out of control. Knight e5 maybe anyway. f4 can be hit with knight to g4. Feels like Howell lost control of this game. Queen e2, but what can black do here? The evil bar likes this for black. Rook g7, he wants to go knight f4. And after, okay, but knight f4. Check and queen, and if you take, I check your king, and you lose the rook. So Howell is losing this one. It looked like he had a huge advantage earlier on, but after f6 c3, he's just down in exchange. He takes on e5, but this does not look good. D takes e5, he can take on e3, but there's no way. Queen h3 maybe? Queen e2 though. Black still has to finish this one off. Queen h3 on the board. Queen e2 has to be played. Yes, still not over. Black only has 20 seconds, but he should be winning here. He's up in exchange. Rook f4 play, maybe rook h4 is what he wants. Okay. Howell, also 20 seconds. Can he get a miraculous escape here? Or will he go down here in round number 3? Rook f2 on the board by Howell, h6. Okay, maybe d6 or something, trying to create some tricks. d6 on the board, take. The knight's hopping in, maybe some queen checks. I mean, it should be lost, but with this knight hopping around, you never know. Rook d4, don't take this pawn because that allows checkmate. Knight e4 back by Howell. Maybe he wants to hop around a g4, queen f5 plate. Rook f1, covering the back rank. King h7, knight g3 by Howell. Queen g6, rook to e1, rook d7. That looks a bit sloppy. Queen takes e5, rook d1, but maybe just taking king g2. Now black has lost control. This king looks unsafe, but there's no way to attack it. f4 by Howell, trying to push up the board. Rook g7. This is just one check, just king g2, rook d7, threatening rook to d2, queen e3 by Howell, defending the d2 square. Maybe h5, rook c7. He's really trying to squeeze in here. Queen d3, now f6 is a threat, this is covered, queen to c4. You have to keep queens on the board. Queen d6, queen g6 is a threat now. Oh! And black exchanged the queens. That must be a win. Rook c4. If he can get this pawn, it's game over. Knight f6 by white. Knight of d5, hitting the pawn. Rook c5. But that, you take the pawn. He might lose the a pawn, but with a knight and an h pawn versus a rook and h pawn, this should be, I mean, might still be winning for black, but it's very difficult. Rook c4, rook b4, rook b5, and rook c5. This pawn is going to drop off. So we will see rook and h versus knight and h pawn, but white is forced here in a passive position. Very tough decision. Now, if you go king up, okay, but now king back, he had to keep the king cut off on that rank. Yeah, rook f3 looks very clean now. Rook f2, yeah, and he's dislodging the knight from the pawn, so this is going to be a win for black. Pawn drops off, king to g5, and just push this pawn up the board. Just push the pawn, and it's game over. Yeah, Howell losing the third round here with the white pieces. Very, very up and down game, but black does get the win in the end. So let's see, we see Raunak also going down with the white pieces against an IM from India. Black is up a bishop and a pawn, and this pawn is simply pushing up the board. g3, king f2, no tricks. Yeah, g2, don't queen. Rook e2, solid move. And since black was going to promote on the next move, Raunak resigned. So Raunak also losing his third round game. We see that Elham is still playing, closing this one out. And there we go, Elham with a win. Moving to 2.5 out of 3, the youngster from Norway. And here we see white trying to squeeze out a win in a rook n2 versus rook n1 endgame. It should be a draw. King d5. I don't like that move though. I would just give it check. So the king stays closer. King g4. h5, there's still check, but I would just cut off the king. Okay, so king f5. You got to try to cut off the king somehow. Rook a3. It should be a draw, but with little time on the clock, you never know. Rook a4, rook f6. Okay, we just take an h4. And now everything is going to disappear. Yeah, there we go. There goes the last pawn. And we will see a draw here. Yeah, both players fighting it out to the bare kings. And that was the last game of round number 3. Round number 4 is starting shortly. But let's have a very quick look at the standings. We see that Van der Reen is still on a perfect score. Also Matthias Bluebaum and Draken. Vuk 2000, Timur Gureyev, Sarana, also Groovy Cattle, Santa Blue. So still all to play for, many more rounds to be played. So let's have a quick look at round number 4. We see Mishanik playing here with the black pieces, grabbing space here in the center, looking good for black. I mean, I guess he can't complain about the opening, right? He has weakened his own pawn structure, but in exchange for that, he's got more space in the center and he's got the bishop pair. So Vu going c4, that looks like a weird move. Like, I feel like you should not open up the center if your opponent has the 2 bishops. Bishop e4 check can still be met with knight of c3. So let's see how this one is gonna proceed. So let's see what's going to happen here. Mishanik taking his time. Okay, black has a lot of options here. Maybe take on d4. All of that brings out the queen. Bishop e4 looks natural. Maybe just develop with knight of c6. At any rate, black should have a fine position, but he's trying to figure out the most precise way to continue here. Let's see which one he's going to choose. He takes on d4. Okay, I'd assume queen takes. Takes with the queen indeed. So he's hitting the pawn on d5. Now, these pawns are now double and isolated, so that might be a little bit uncomfortable in an endgame. But let's see how black's going to proceed. Here he goes knight of c6. White can take the pawn, but then there is takes and knight of b4. Threatening a fork and this. Okay, so we see a trade on d5, knight b4, hitting c2 and d5, knight e3. The knight is kind of awkward here. He takes the pawn back, I guess, along castles, and the position should be approximately equal. Black has the two bishops, but white has the slightly better pawn structure. Knight b5, but after a bishop, no, but bishop b4. c6, knight to d4, okay, bishop b4 check. Okay, king has to go here or here. This should definitely be better for black, because the king is lacking a safe home. Short castles, king c2 now, I'd assume. King c2 on the board. Rook d8 by Serrana. Maybe bishop d3, just develop, then move out the knight. a3 played. Bishop goes back to e7. Bishop d3. Okay, so let's see. c5 hitting the knight, but knight f5 is a move. I guess you back up with bishop f8. Knight f5 played, hitting the bishop, bishop f8. Maybe just develop with... Okay, he goes g4, strengthening the knight, bishop e6. Black is ready to launch an initiative here on the queen side with c4, but white should be well prepared for rook c8. Guess just move in this rook, or the other one. Should be approximately equal. Suddenly, the computer does like white is giving a 0.6 advantage. So Serrana did not play this in the most precise way. Rook d1 played. This bishop on f8 is kind of passive. It's actually kind of dominated by the knight, because it's taking away all the squares. And this knight is kind of loose. Like after bishop e4, white will have some pressure, so along the d file. So Vuk has done a good job over the last couple of moves. So let's see what Michanek will do here. Bishop e4 should be next. a6. Okay, bishop e4 looks very natural, hitting the knight. And yeah, it's looking tough. Like, he can go b5, I guess, but still the position should be better for white, because it's difficult for black to make progress. Maybe double up the rooks. Okay, white's taking his time here. He's up 20 seconds. Let's see which move he's going to come up with. Also, there's always ideas like knight at g3, knight at h5, which is nasty, because the pawn on f6 will be difficult to protect. He goes bishop f4, hitting the knight. b5. Okay, knight g3, knight h5 maybe looks nasty. Rook to d2, he's planning to double up the rooks. Knight at b6. Rook d1 looks natural. Grabbing the d file. Yep, and it is on the board. Trade. Knight c4, nice move, hitting the rook. Maybe knight at e5, hitting the pawn on g4. b4, trying to create counterplay on the queen side. Now if trade, the c file opens up, and otherwise this pawn on a3 is under attack. So let's see which move Vuk is going to come up with. We see him taking on b4, recapture. King b1 stepping out of the way. Maybe knight e5, but still h3, a5. Okay, maybe knight d4 or knight f4. Knight f4 looks like a nice move, and knight h5. Let's see which one Vuk is going to come up with. 42 seconds for white, 51 seconds for black. b3 on the board, hitting the knight. Knight e5 looks like the move, hitting this pawn and hitting this pawn. In the meantime, we do want to thank Mega Focus for the prime. Knight e5, hitting the pawn on g4. Knight d4. Now, if you take there's rook to g1 and you get into a nasty pin, you protect this pawn on b3. It's definitely looking better for white, because once again, this bishop on f8 is very passive. Black going rook to c3, hitting the pawn on b3. I guess king to b2 has to be played. Bishop c2, it looks a little bit passive, but it might also be good. Let's see what Michanek is going to do here. He has 30 seconds. Okay, maybe bishop to d4. Tough position. a4, that's a pawn sacrifice. If white takes b3, but does black have enough? You can just move the bishop back. What is he cooking here? Like, just take you gotta take the pawn. You gotta take the pawn and then move the bishop back. 19 seconds for white. He's trying to figure it out, but I think he just has to take the pawn. It does not seem like black has enough. 12 seconds. He takes the pawn, b3, bishop e4, I guess. Bishop e4 on the board. 10 seconds for white, 24 seconds for Michanek. Can he pull off an escape here? Knight c4, trying to jump with the knight, but it doesn't have any real threats. Knight b5. Wait, is this rook suddenly trapped? We see a trade. Oh, but rook to d8, 4. He goes knight d4 first. Rook d8 would look very nasty, forcing the bishop back to a passive square. But I guess he wants to go knight to b5, hitting the bishop and the rook. Bishop c2. Black was turning rook c1. He blocks it off with bishop c2, and now it should be winning for white. Rook c4, knight to b5. dislodging the bishop, and then this should be another pawn. White will be up 2 pawns, but g4 is still hanging. Bishop e3, taking g4. It's not over. Now a4 is hanging. He pushes it up the board. Rook a4. Wait, this one is getting out of control. Rook. Oh, and the knight is lost. Holy smokes. Michnik up a piece now. Can he close this one out? Not over just yet. King f7, rook d7 check. Rook b7. Oh, but now goes the bishop. Rook a2 though. Black's king is on the king side. White's king is wandered all the way off on this side of the board. Rook takes h2. Okay, going after the f... What? Rook f2 and then taking? But I still feel like Michnik should win this game. This king is in the wrong spot. f5, king f3 should be a win. Check king e4 and rook d3. Once again, the problem is really White's king. Rook h6 takes and king f4. This should be win. The king is too far cut off. And this is a technical win here for Black. King g4, just push this pawn up the board. Rook e5 played. Making king f3, king d4. Okay, just move sideways. And f4, this will be a technical win for Sarana. King g2. Once again, this king is just in the right place. He gives a check. f2, you can block with the rook. And Sarana is going to move to 4 out of 4. Very, very up and down game, but he does get the win. Yeah, tough. So let's see which games are still going on. We have Michael Briagvin playing Mary Arabidze, but this ended in a draw. Let's see. We have... Oh, wait. No. I have no idea what's going on. What you want? Okay, you gotta take. Jeez. King g4, king h5, king h6. Very nice technique here by Black. Moving the king back diagonally. And White is just not in time. This pawn is dropping off. So here we see a biostatistician beating Gawain Jones with the black pieces. Still a couple games going on. This should be a win for White, because this pawn is just too far advanced, and White indeed wins the game. Let's see. Still one more game going on, but this is gonna end. What? Oh, and it ends in a draw. Yeah. Knight versus bishop, neither side can win. So round number 4 is gonna start shortly. Let's have a very quick look at the stand. Oh no, wait, that was round number 4. We see that after 4 rounds, Sanan Shugirov is still on a perfect score. Alexis Arana, Vandereen, Groovy Kettle, also still on a perfect score. Badur Jobava, Patzel, Grandmaster Azoria, and many others. So we will be taking a short break, but don't go anywhere, you guys. More action coming your way in this week's Title Tuesday. We'll see you guys after the break. welcome back everyone to this week's Title Tuesday. In round number 5 we see Dmitry Andreikin taking on Aracha 2000 from India. So Andreikin dropped half a point, so of course he wants to win this game to try to get back into the pack of leaders. So let's see how this one is going to go. He trades on c6. Now black has a decision to make. If you take, okay, he takes with the pawn, he takes on d5 right away. I was going to say that if black takes with the knight, you hang the pawn on d5. We see trade on d5 should be okay for black here. h3 by white, bishop d6. White is a slightly better pawn structure, but black has the two bishops, so it should all be even. Knight e5, maybe c5, okay, f6. Knight has to move back. And I would think that with the two bishops, black should be doing fine. He's pretty active, bishop f5 on the board. Rook e1 by Andreikin. Rook e8 by black, maybe queen f3, hitting the pawn. Bishop f4, nice move. If you take, there's bishop d6. And the rook on f1 is then not under attack. That's why he probably played rook e1. Rook b8, maybe just b3. Yeah, that's what he does. c6 by black. I think now something like trade and knight c5 should be very nice. The knight on c5 can never be challenged by any of the black pieces. He goes rook c1 first. White should have a comfortable advantage here. So let's see how Andreikin will handle this position. The knight on c5 could never be challenged after this trade, because black doesn't have a b or a d pawn that could push up here and hit the knight. Also, black then does not have the dark square bishop to challenge his knight, so that would be a nice sequence for white. But he chose to move rook c1 instead, improving that rook first. But let's see what black's going to do. White should have a comfortable advantage. He's also up 30 seconds now, so looking very good for Andreikin. But of course, he did already drop half a point. He cannot afford to many draws anymore. So we see a trade and a5 by black because his pawn was under attack. Maybe knight a4 to c5. Maybe doubling up the rooks. White should have a nice position regardless. But it'll be interesting to see how Andreikin will handle this position to try to put a positional squeeze on here. He goes queen a6, but rook a8. What is he playing? Okay, queen b4 by black. Queen a6 looked a bit off. This pawn on d4 is now also under attack. I think maybe the best move is simply to go knight queen to d3, which is of course a pity, losing two moves, going back and forth. But you know, that's the way it is sometimes. I believe David Howell won last week. David Howell right now is on 3. He lost the game earlier, so at best he's at 3 out of 4. So will not be easy for him this week, because generally a score like 10 out of 11 is needed. So then he cannot afford any more draws, you know. So g3 played by white, stopping knight at f4. Let's see how black is going to proceed. White should still be a little bit better. This pawn on c6 is backwards and on an open file. So yeah, this will be interesting to see how this is going to proceed. Okay, black's taking his time here. White's up like 30 seconds. Okay, rook e7. I guess trade and knight a4 looks like a nice move. Not knight e4 right away. He takes an e7. Knight takes, yeah. I guess knight a4. Queen e3 hitting the knight. Okay, knight is actually protected, but queen e6 could be nasty. So maybe king f7 by black. Stopping that, yeah, on the board. And if rook e1, you go queen to d6. Knight e2 played. Okay, queen d6. Rook c5 might be a nice move, hitting the pawn. Let's see how Andreikin will continue here. Knight f4 played. Maybe he wants to swing the knight around at d3. Knight f5, queen d3, I guess. He's up 30 seconds, so definitely a nice situation here for Andreikin. Let's see how he will try to increase the pressure here. Okay, knight g6. I guess knight d3, keeping the knights on the board. Should be better. Rook e8 though. But once again, these pawns are kind of weak. White always has to move queen d2, suddenly hitting this pawn. Rook c5 is there. He goes queen to d2, going after the pawn on a5, which looks very difficult to protect. a4, maybe you just take. He goes h5, trying to create counterplay on the king side. White has a comfortable minute. Black has 18 seconds. But you gotta be careful. If you take h4, g4, knight f4, things are getting out of control. So let's see how Andreken will deal with this. Maybe h4 first, but then he always has to deal with sacrifices here. He takes a pawn. Okay, h4 now. Queen c5, offering a queen trade. Nice move. Queen b8. Queen c6 is now very nice. And if takes, queen c7. Queen c7. You trade up the queens. You block the diagonal, and that should be an easy win. Queen c7 on the board. King f8 maybe. If you trade right away, it's an easy win for white. He goes king f8. You can take on g3 now. He takes on b8, but this allows black to take here. But still, these two pawns here should win white the game. But knight c5 on the board, preparing a4, knight e7, trying to block with knight c6. Still looking very good for white, but he has to convert the still. a4 on the board, knight f5, hitting the pawn. Not over just yet. Okay, a5, you sacrifice the pawn. a6, now you don't want to take here because this pawn will push all the way up to a7. Maybe knight to b5. Should still be better for white. Only 4 seconds for black. Knight b5 on the board. Let's see how Andreken will try to squeeze this one out. Rook a1, rook a8, rook a5 hitting the knight. Knight has to block on a7, I think. Knight c7, but here comes the b pawn. Okay, a7, rook, or maybe you take. Wait, white also getting low on the clock now. Knight to d3, defending the pawn. Rook b5. That does not look correct. Take. Knight f4 hitting the pawn. Nice move. If d4, that makes way for the king. He goes knight c7, but a7. And everything is winning here. Knight to d5. Knight e6 play. This should be winning. Knight takes d4. Just move up the king, I guess. And use these pawns to distract the black king. If the king moves all the way over there, you're going to take these pawns. So he goes knight e6, knight f4, hitting the pawn. b5, guess knight d5. Okay, b6, and b7. And that's all she wrote. So Andreken moving to 4.5 out of 5. Tough loss here for Araja, who is going to lose this game. He's going to play it out till checkmate, I assume. And there it is. Andreken does win this game, moving to 4.5 out of 5. Let's see what other games we have. Okay, so we have a game here. You know what? Let's watch Robert Hess, everyone's favorite commentator. Okay, so Robert should be winning this pawn one because he's very far advanced up the board. King to d4, c6 looks very strong now. Okay, bishop e4. Bishop e4 wins the game, and this bishop is going to drop off. So that is going to be a win for Robert. And bishop d5, very comfortable win. Just take the pawn, and that is going to be all she wrote. And Robert does win his game. He moves to 4 out of 5. Let's see what other games there are still to watch. Okay, still a couple games going on. We have Arseny Nesterov trying to squeeze out a win here. Interesting endgame. White has 2 rooks and black has a rook and a knight. Now usually a rook versus a knight is an easy draw, but with one pair of rooks on the board, that still makes it tricky. But I feel like black is doing a good job, keeping all his pieces close to each other. Okay, just check. So it'll be interesting to see here how Nesterov will try to create winning chances. Just rook to d4. Everything is solidly protected. d4, king e3, d5, maybe give a check. c5, but I think this setup is very effective. It's very difficult for white to ever do anything. Check. Okay. g6, making sure he can never get forked. g5, wait, but okay. Rook c2, now wait, now you're losing your setup. King d5, you have to go here. Wait, no, but rook c6, wait, this is, wait, knight f5, is this a move? I mean, wait, there's no way. King e6, take, and like, he goes rook g8, threatening checkmate. Rook e7, but check, and rook a2. And that is a win. So yeah, you guys, it's tough. Even though it was a draw, Nesterov kept on creating problems for black, and eventually black blundered in the end. That's how it goes sometimes. Now, I would just trade off one of the rooks for the knight. Make sure you never get forked, and that is an easy win. And indeed, Arseniy Nesterov does win his game. He moves to 4.5 out of 5. The next round is starting really soon. We're going to have a quick look at the standings. And we see that Groovy Kettle still on a perfect score on 5 out of 5. Shagirov as well, Mishanik, Christopher Yu. So let's have a look at Groovy Kettle against Shimonov. That will be the game we will be keeping an eye out on. So we see a Scandinavian here by Shimonov, knight f3 by Groovy Kettle. I think... okay, so d4, long castles, c4. Groovy Kettle is Robbie Kavalishvili, by the way. Queen f5, bishop e3, maybe e5 now for black. There's some tricky lines here in the Scandinavian. So let's see how this one is going to proceed. Okay, so you trade on d4, knight takes d4. There's some weird line, like bishop g4. Wait, how does this... No, but check, takes. But now it's just down a pawn. It feels like it's not for sufficient compensation. There are some tricky lines, like... Yeah, the Scandinavian is tricky. Okay, knight f6. Maybe take the pawn, but then b6. Your bishop is kind of trapped over there. Let's see how Robbie will try to create counterplay here for the pawn deficit. Okay, he does take the pawn. b6, maybe c5 is what he wants. But still, king to b7. Okay, take. Black's not threatening to take the bishop right away, because that would allow queen to c7. So maybe that would allow white a chance to play a move like rook to c1. But still, b6 is the critical move. I wonder what Groovy Kettle has planned there. e6 played by black. Bishop e3, saving the bishop. So it should be approximately even now. Like, materials even. And yeah, this pawn is gone. But at the same time, black's pieces are pretty active. h3 by Robbie, queen e4, and queen a4. Trying to be tricky here. Queen a8, knight to c3. There's queen e5, but I guess you just go g3. You don't want to allow queen h2 check. You kind of go f4, that hangs the bishop. So g3 has to be played, and indeed it's on the board. White is a little bit weakened here, because he pushed these pawns up the board. But it's not that easy for black to take advantage. Let's see what he's going to do. Queen f5 is an option, hitting the pawn. So king e2, you can get checked all the time. King h2 is a move, but then like h5, h4 could suddenly come very, very fast. So let's see how Shimonov will proceed here. He goes queen f5, hitting the pawn. The engine bar does not like that move, but the question is why? Maybe c5, but then there might be stuff like takes and knight g4. Very tricky position. He goes knight to c3, but wait, that feels way too slow. Take the pawn, and knight g4. There's also this. I feel like knight c3 was a mistake. But c5, bishop g3, it's not that clear. Let's see how Robbie's going to proceed here. Bishop g3 could be a threat. Knight g4 could be a threat. Maybe, tough. Maybe rook fd1. So this would allow checkmate actually. If knight g4, are there any tricks? Well, black might not really have a threat, because you just move the king over. But let's see, Robbie is taking his time here. Both players around 130. Let's see which move he's gonna come up with. Okay, Robbie taking his time here. Let's see what he's gonna do. Okay, rook fd1 played. Knight g4 does look like the move here for black. But once again, since f2 is protected, you go king f2. This is not checkmate, but he might threaten to take here. But still, I feel like knight g4 is the move. Both sides attacking here, knight g4. Maybe check and take is the way to go for white here. He goes bishop c5, also a move. Now do not take that bishop because of checkmate. After check here, this is still protected. So very, very tricky here, very, very tricky. 43 seconds for Groovy Kettle, 50 seconds for Shimonov. Let's see how this one is going to proceed. Okay, Shimonov taking his time here, getting all the way down to 25 seconds. Gotta go, dude. Maybe knight e5 and knight f3 would be a checkmating threat. Although then you give a check and take b6 played. Now do not take, because that allows checkmate. What should I do here? Very, very tricky. Very, very tricky. Very difficult to figure out what's going on. Maybe knight b5 takes knight a7? Here, no, but the king walks back. That doesn't work. Rook takes d6 on the board. Rook takes d6 though. Yeah, this does not seem correct. If you take, you get checkmated. Check by king d7. You can take, but you're getting absolutely slaughtered on the other side of the board. King e7. Now you can take, but okay, wait, still tricky. Knight e4 or queen takes. No, queen takes b6 hangs a rook. Okay, king has to slide over. Oh, nice move. And check, and he wins back the queen. Black has to take, though. King h6 is too much. You have to take. You gotta go, dude. King h6. What? Check. There's no way. Check, here, and mate. Queen f3 played by white. What? He missed a forced checkmate. Queen f4 was forced checkmate. Was that a mouse slip? Queen g6. Queen g2 going for the queen trade. We see trade here, d5, take, knight c3, d4, knight f6, rook to d1 maybe, rook d8, rook d4 perhaps. The endgame should be equal, rook king e3, but maybe a little bit better for white, because these pawns are a little bit weak. h5, trying to get knight g4, maybe f3, gives a check, but now this, black has this square. Rook d6, maybe push, a4 looks like a nice move, a3 played. Knight b5, rook d6, he's repeating. Trading maybe. Okay, king e3, king f3, should be a draw, knight e5, knight e3 hitting the pawn, king e4, but check and knight d3, e4, white is a more active king though, b3, trying to chip away the pawns, knight c1, but take, that is a free pawn, the knight is completely, but knight e2, knight f1, still white has his passed a pawn, there's h4 by black, a4, the pawn moves up the board, knight takes g3, does that work though, king g4, but this should be winning. He takes the pawn, yeah, and this pawn is just going to promote. And Robbie Kavlishvili moving to 6 out of 6. Great start for him. Very, very up and down game. But he does get the job done. All right, let's see who else we have. We have Chess Lover playing. This should be a win for white. Just push this pawn up the board. And just queen. And indeed, Chess Lover does win his game. He moves to 5 out of 6. Let's see. We also have Arjun, who should be winning, but this game is not over just yet. Not easy to make progress. Like, how do you actually make progress here? Although this could be some sort of Zook fight, maybe 97. Sorry. And black is just gonna wait, but now it's a draw. sorry guys. The rook can just shuffle between these squares. It should be a draw. Wait, but this is a nasty pin. Thank you guys. Sorry. Queen f3 not over just yet. Wait, evil bar showed that white was winning, but how? Queen f4. Queen f4 would have been a nasty pin, but it was missed. Wait, queen takes d7, queen takes d7. Man, what? Wait, but now it's checkmate? No, it's checkmate IBA, what? Holy smokes. In this position, white could have gone queen takes d7, king takes d7, king takes b6, with a winning king and pawn in game. But instead of that, he played the move queen b4, which allowed check. If you go king here, checkmate. And if you go king here, then check and mate. Very sad ending of the game for Arjun, who's down to 4 out of 6. One more game going on. Black should be getting, there should be a draw. White. Commentator scores, eh? He could have just taken on h4, and this is a drawn king and pawn in game. But with all that being said, you guys, that does wrap up round number 6. So if we have a very quick look at the standings, we see that Christopher Yu, Groovy Kettle, Jano, and Missionik are the only 4 players still on a perfect score. They will be duking it out in round number 7. So let's have a quick look. We see Groovy Kettle here playing with the black pieces against Jano. So let's see how this one is going to go. 95 by Groovy Kettle, trying to chop off the bishop here. Should be a comfortable position here for black. I guess just take the bishop, otherwise white has bishop. Oh, but now bishop c2. I think he had to take the bishop, because now the bishop does stay on the board. b5, bishop b7, nice plan. Maybe f5 for white at some point in time. He goes queen e1, queen h4, I guess. So let's see how this one is going to go. Okay, we see queen c7 here on the board. And we see trade on d4. Okay, now you do want to take with the bishop, I guess, trade off, and that should be a win. Or, wait, what am I saying? It should be a slightly better position for white. Because now after e5, this diagonal is also weakened. So he moves the bishop back there. That should be very nice. He can take maybe some shenanigans like knight g5 and take, and bishop b3. Goes bishop b3 right away. But looks very, very comfortable for white. After the trade, this is weak. Knight g5 is always a move. Bishop b3, putting pressure on this pawn. Very tough game here for Groovy Kettle. So let's see how this one is going to proceed. f6. Okay. Check. But still king e8. So let's see. Okay, he goes f5. You can take or try to keep. If g5, I guess white's going to sack. So he takes. Pawn takes. And then black does get a big center. And there's no easy way to proceed here on the king side for white. So I guess Groovy Kettle can't be too unhappy about this trade. Maybe although, yeah, d5 on the board. d4 could be an idea. Bishop h6, trying to trade off the bishops. But if black does something like maybe take, move the king over, the king should be relatively safe. He goes king h8 right away, which is not a good move. Take. But why is this not good? Okay, if takes, there's still queen takes. Because if you take with the pawn, f6 is crushing. Maybe rook de1. There is stuff like this, but still, I mean, white's better. But it's showing +4. I don't know why. Takes queen e5. Why is white just crushing here? Having a hard time to understand. Take, rook e1, queen d6 or queen c7. looking promising for white. But, I mean, maybe this endgame is just crushing. Knight takes c5 on the board. If you take with the pawn, there's f6. Rook de1 now, or maybe the other rook. The other rook might be slightly more... Okay, he goes rook de1. Now queen g3 is nice. You force black to take, and then you take here. Black blocks, you take, and you take with a very nice endgame. Because this pawn is weak, this pawn is weak. Goes queen to g3, it has to be taken. Then you take an e7. 7, take, and very nasty endgame here for black. But black has to take on g3. You gotta go. The queen takes g3 is the only move. Rook f7 now. Very tough endgame here for Robbie, but let's see if he can hold on here. Yeah, once again, this is weak. King f2 now, followed by rook h1. King f2 on the board, rook g5. Still, you know, rook g5. I like this move. If he gets bishop c8, rook d1, nice move. Maybe h5, making sure that this is difficult to get. And then maybe move the king over. And then bishop c8. There's still drawing chances for black. Let's see if Groovy Cattle can try to hang on here. Bishop c6. Rook d4 by white. King d6. Now g4. Yeah, the king moves up to e5. But then what? You know, rook is gonna move back. King f4. Looking tough. Looking very, very tough here. This pawn is weak now. Bishop e3. With the rook around e3. Rook e7. Still, white has to convert this one. Black is up a little bit of time on the clock. Bishop d1, nice move. He wants to maneuver the bishop to the f3 square, covering all the important squares. a5 by black. Bishop f3. View rook e1, going for some counterplay, but still, like, d1 is a move. Let's see what Groovy Cattle is going to do here. Rook e1 played. Rook d1 by white. Okay, you gotta keep the rooks. Oh, he trades. Aha, this might be a draw. Is this, wait, what if you just said, is this just a draw? Because if the king moves back, that allows king e5. This might just be a draw. The king moves around here, maybe just sit with bishop e8. So Robbie trying to figure out the drawing mechanism here. I think you don't want to play here, because that gives white outside passer. He's taking his time here. White could play b4 if black doesn't do it to fix the pawns. d4 and takes. Interesting decision. Bishop b3. Okay, so the good thing for black is that these pawns are on light squares. Bishop b6, anchoring in the bishop. Bishop g2 is sitting, but now the king swings around. No, but now king h... He had to go back, and then bishop e8, but now... Hard to believe this is a draw. d5. Bishop d5 played. Okay, b4. b3, fixing all the pawns on the light squares. Aha. Okay, he wants to go bishop e3, but still there's this. Okay, move the king back now. Should be winning somehow for... Okay, bishop e2. d6. Black's in a bit of a pickle here. Now bishop h. Okay, takes. Still not over. Still not over. Although someone like g5 should be winning on f6. g5 and f6 looks crushing. If you go here, there's still take. I mean, everything should be winning here. King g6 played. Take, and take. King g5. You moved. It's not over just yet, especially since these pawns are on light squares. So let's see if Robbie can pull off a miracle here. But it's looking very tough. Okay, but king f8, king f8. Wait, now he blocks with the king. And now he can go after these pawns. Bishop d3, bishop b1. Bishop d3, and bishop b1. Can this still be a draw? Oh, bishop b4 played. Nice move. King back. Yeah, nice move. Stopping. Okay, bishop d3. Nah, it's a win. He's going to take here and here. And that's going to be all she wrote. Robbie playing on here, but he knows this one is lost. He's completely dominated here. There's nothing you can do, unfortunately. King d6. Tough. b7, you have to give with the bishop. And that is gonna be all she wrote. So unfortunate loss here for Robbie. Jano, very surprising, moves to 7 out of 7. I don't know what happened in the other game between Christopher Yu and Mishonik. Are they still playing? Missionik did win that game because he's on 7 out of 7. Let's have a look at Renato Theory against Kasper Pjorun. Should be winning for Pjorun. Just take on b4. And Pjorun indeed does win this game. So let's see, a couple more games going on. Black is completely winning here, and indeed he did win. Very interesting. Like with the king here, you might think that there might be some sort of check. It's very weird that black played this move, maybe a mouse slip. But the funny thing is, it feels like if you can sacrifice the queen, there might be still, but there's no way to do it. If you go here, you take, give up this square. If you go here, you block like this, or like this. Anyway, we are off to round number 8. So let's have a very quick look. We see the two leaders, Missionik against Jano, are paired with each other. Missionik opening up with d4, and Jano responds with knight f6. And we see a Benko by Jano. Okay, a6. Missionik taking the pawns here, d6. The Benko is generally known as a bit of a dubious opening, but it is tough to deal with in blitz, because black has a lot of tricks. White always has to be careful, you know, that he consolidates the position correctly. But in general, the Benko is a bit of a dubious opening. He goes knight a6, maybe knight b4. Okay, he goes rook to b8, hitting the pawn. Rook hb1, defending. Let's see, white could play e5 at some point in time. So let's see how this one is going to proceed. Knight d7 play by black. a4. Okay, now a4, the idea is always that you want to plan your knight on the b5 square, which is why black played knight to c7. b3 could be a nice move here to stabilize, maybe knight d2 to c4. White should be better here, but once again, still, you know, long way off of actually converting the extra pawn. Knight d2 by white. He wants to hop with his knight to c4. Queen a6 therefore, stopping it. b3, I guess there's someone like queen a5. With annoying pressure on the knight. b3 played. Queen a5, there's still rook c1. And you do want to get your knight to c4. So nice move here by Missionik. So let's see how this one is going to proceed. e6 by black, chipping away at the structure in the center. Yeah, so you can take, but then the knight swings in. So let's see, maybe knight c4, but then you can take on d5. Should be better for Missionik, but he has to figure out the right sequence here. Not that easy. Not that easy. After takes, you hit the bishop, and knight d4 is coming. Knight c4 would be a move, but let's see how he will proceed here. Knight c4 played, but ed now, and if ed takes, and take, should be okay for black. Takes on d5 right away. Yeah. Takes, and then take on d5. So I think Jano should be doing okay here, but let's see how this one is going to proceed. Okay, takes on d6. Okay, maybe d4 now, hitting the knight, and d3 is an idea. I think black has to go d4. You hit the knight, and if here take. So let's see what Jano is going to come up with here. Okay, knight e6. Nice move, hitting the bishop. And, yeah. If you take, he's gonna take and then take on d6. So, let's see how white is gonna proceed here. Very nice move here by black. Knight b5 played. Okay, so if take, take, should still be okay. Knight c7 is always a threat. d4, knight d5. Takes on e4. There is knight at c7. Yeah, pawn takes e4 was probably, yeah, looks like the right move. Maybe just recapture. So knight c7, black should have something. Maybe queen d3 there. Interesting to see how this one is going to proceed. I think he just has to take an e4, but we'll see what Michanek is going to do here. He takes on e4 indeed. Knight f6 hitting the queen, queen f3. So yeah, white is up a pawn. Black still has compensation though. So it will be interesting to see how this one is going to proceed. The knights are pretty nice here on the queen side, holding everything together. If white gets a couple moves, maybe rook d1 at d6 could be nice. Goes rook to c8. Rook e1 by Michanek. Okay, knight h5 by black. Okay, queen f6 hitting the pawn, but knight d5 hitting the queen. Wait, where does the queen even go? How do you not hang anything? Queen h4, but okay, there's a check and take. Just take the rook. 6 and f4, but king h1 looks very safe. Then maybe knight d6. Still rook f8 though. a5. Okay, this pawn is pushing up the board. Feels like black should not have enough. Bishop d4, maybe something like rook e4 is nice. Forcing g5, but let's see what Michanek is going to do. Shouldn't have to worry too much about this pawn, but knight h3, something like that could be tricky. Rook e4, nice move, pinning the knight. g5, I guess, has to be played. Not to lose material right away. Yeah, knight f5, very nice move, going for massive. Oh wait, black's just lost here. Knight takes d4, finishes off the game. Because of take, take, and white's up a rook. So knight takes d4. And yeah, I think Michanek is just going to win this game and move to 8 out of 8. Great start. And indeed, he does win this game. Great start from the youngster from Russia. Still on a perfect score. And he might be opening up a big lead here soon. But let's have a look at the other games. We see we see Aram Hakobian taking on Shugirov here. Aram is on 6 points. Shugirov is on 6.5. Wait, the evil board did not like that, but you cannot keep protecting this rook. Queen f6 is now very safe, and queen g5 just straight off the queens and you win. And Hakobian does win his game. He moves to 7 out of 8. We also have Shimonov, who lost. So he's that probably puts him out of contention. Let's see what else we have. We have Bakro taking on Kazar Babazada, the young Azeri player. Should be a win somehow for white. Okay, king e7. No, he misses it. Still to finish this one off. Okay. g6. White almost flagged there. Okay, rook a6. Rook a6. Oh, and he flags. Very, very tough loss for Etienne Bakro from France. Tough. Rook a6 would have won the game here. You win this pawn, but fortunately he was not. He didn't get the move in time. I think we've all been there at one point. But anyway, still a couple games going on. We have Alex Trapishko drawing his game against Bayern, fellow Russian. So yeah, couple more games going on. Okay, we have day 25. Daisy Corey, who loses on time. Very unfortunate. We have a couple more games going on. Black trying to win here. Up a pawn, but it should be a draw. Should be a draw, but it's not over just yet. Black is still pushing for the win. With little time on the clock, still anything can happen. King up. Okay. But now white's... He had to move the king around. Yeah, this should just be a draw. But black is still trying to win this one. Anyway, if we have a very quick look at the standings, we see that Mishanik is leading the field with 8 out of 8. He's followed by Andrakin, who's the only player on 7.5. And then there's a big pack on players on 7 out of 8. Jano, Timidor, Groovy Cattle, and many others. This game is going to end in a draw. Right? It's going to end in a draw. But it's not. White many times had this move, which would have forced a draw right away. Yeah, and knight c1, it's on the board. And there we go. And that wraps up round number 8. We will be taking a very short break, but don't go anywhere, you guys, because Title Tuesday will be decided in the last 3 rounds. We'll see you guys at the other end of this break. Don't go anywhere. Alright, you guys, and welcome back to this week's edition of Title Tuesday. I'm your host, GM Benjamin Bok, and we are having a look here at the game between the players in place 1 and 2. Dmitry Andreikin with 7.5 out of 8, half a point behind the leader, Alexei Serrano, who's still in a perfect score, 8 out of 8. So if Andreikin wants to win this tournament, he has to win this game here with the white pieces. He's going for a kingside attack here with the move f5, rook a8. Maybe trade on a8 or bishop g5. Nice move, keeping an eye on the pawn on e7. Rook e8, therefore, protecting the pawn. Maybe queen d2, just connecting the rooks. Looks like a comfortable position for white, but still, all to play for. So it'll be interesting to see how this one is gonna proceed. All right. So we see Andreikin taking his time here. Black is 2:45 on the clock. White under 2 minutes. Queen c7. Wait, but now it takes. You have to take with the bishop, right? He couldn't take with the rook because that would leave this pawn hanging. Indeed, he takes with the bishop. This pawn is a little bit weak, but it's not easy to attack because if you go here, you hang your pawn on c2. So let's see. Bishop h6 still take, and take. So how is Andreikin gonna proceed here? That is the big question. Maybe, if you don't see anything better, maybe just push all the pawns off the board. Try to break everything over. He goes bishop h6, but still take. He goes bishop e5. He wants none of that. I kind of like h4 here and h5, but let's see if Andreikin's gonna go for that or if he has other intentions. Knight f4. Okay, bring the knight in. So let's see. Knight f6, g5 maybe. Hitting the knight, and then h4, h5. I kind of like that idea. I feel like this loses too much time. Yeah, the knight has to move back. You can also take here first and then h4. It feels like black's counterplay on the queen side has not really taken off yet, and white is really smashing here on the king side. The knight has to move back to d7, it's the only move. Maybe he's considering this and anchoring in the knight on the h5 square, but that also does not look pretty. So let's see what he's going to do. I think knight d7 has to be played. Andreikin only won 14 on the clock though. Black's a little bit under 2 minutes, but still, still plenty of time for the Russian Grandmaster, so let's see how it's going to proceed. So yeah, black taking his time here. Andreikin catching up on the clock. Where is he gonna go? I mean, knight d7 or bishop f4. But bishop f4 takes knight h. Maybe it's not that bad. He's got to make a decision. He goes knight to d7. Now I guess take, and h4 looks crushing. You're just gonna smash open the king side. If you go h4 right away is also an option, but then black could take and then trade on g2. I don't like h4 right away. He takes on f4. Now take with the queen, I guess. Yeah, knight e5, but something like take. h5, although you take. So h5 right away, but you take. He takes. Okay, you have to take with the h-pawn, which is what he does. This under attack, h5, but what if you take? Or what if you take on c2 and then take? Because I don't see the checkmate. He takes on c2. He's saying like, okay, show me the money. Take on g6. I'm just going to recapture. All of this is covered. This is covered by the knight. This is covered by the rook. I'm going to chop here. Then e4 is weak. Indeed, we see a trade. He can go here, but then as soon as black takes here, e4 is very, very weak. So suddenly Michanek has huge counterplay here. Andreikin down at 30 seconds, not looking good here. Bishop h3, but still, you take on d3. I don't see it. Check, king over. Where's the checkmate? Check here, take, king h8. Check here. Does not seem to be working. He takes a pawn on d3. Check, but king h7. You gotta go king h7. Don't go here. Because of check here, king h7, check here, and bishop c4. And white wins. You gotta go to h7. And indeed, it's on the board. Bishop e4 is under attack. 1 minute for black, 30 seconds approximately for Dmitry Andreikin. What is he going to do here? Queen f7 play, but you take and king h8. Check, King g8, it doesn't work. Taking h7, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Doesn't work. If you move your rook here, I'm gonna take. You take my queen, but guess what? This is at the end, and that's just over. Rook takes c7, king h7. By king h7, your rook is under attack. You don't have a discovery here with the bishop. It's just over. And if you don't do anything else, you're just getting checkmated. So Mischnik is gonna move the 9 out of bishop g8, but takes. King takes. Tough loss here for Andrekin. It looked like he was doing very, very well, crushing on the king side, but he did not find the right way through. And Mischnik suddenly got his counterplay going on the queen side and guarded against all the threats. So Mischnik moving to 9 out of 9, taking a full point lead over the field. Let's see what's happening in the other games. We have here Timotor against Kasper Pjorun. Both players are 1 point behind Sarana. So both of them kind of need a win here if they want to catch up. Okay, h4 looks like a nice move, preparing knight at g3. He goes rook to f6 first. So nice move, queen d4, knight g3. Wins the knight e2, wins the game. Yeah, and you win the queen. Okay, black is completely winning here. And indeed, Pjorun does win his game. He moves to 8 out of 9, 1 point behind Sarana. So he still has a chance to catch him, especially if he beats him in the direct encounter. Okay, then we have Chesslover against Jano. Jano crushing it once again with the black pieces. He's up in exchange, but can he convert? That is a big question. He goes f5. Does expose the king a little bit, so don't really like that move. King f7. Maybe try to swing the queen around. e4. Okay, but now this knight has some nice anchor squares. Queen 8. Okay, knight e3, but okay. I would really try to enter here with the queen. And there he goes, queen a2. Queen c5 played, but like maybe queen a6 or something. Okay, 7. Oh! He's forcing the queen trade. And he does win the game. Jano winning once again, moving to 8 out of 9. Only 1 point behind Sarana, still all to play for. Then we have Sanan Shugirov winning his game against Luca Moroni. Luca Moroni losing this game. Then we have Am I Terrible, who's going to draw with Howell. It's just a completely drawn endgame. White is blocking here on the light squares. So we are not going to watch this game. This is just going to be a draw. In the meantime, we see Bakro grinding out a winning rook and pawn game. He's going to promote, which is why White let his time run out. Okay. Let's see what other games we have. White's up a rook. White's up a rook, right? White is showing +2. White's up a full rook. Okay, White should be winning this one. Rook h8, but still has to convert, you know. Still has to actually win. But I'm sure he will manage. The only way you cannot win this is if the 50 move rule kicks in, or if... Wait, what is this? Why is it saying a draw? Why is it saying +1? What? This should be an easy... Wait, what am I... But White having a very tough time to convert this. What is... I mean, 50 moves is not out of the question here. 50 moves is not out of the question. We are in move 105. They started their shenanigans at move... Wait, come on, let me scroll up. Okay, it all started on move 72. So at 122, the system will declare this a draw. And they are at 114. White only has 7 more moves. Oh, but the knight is lost. No, but wait, knight c... The knight is... king's... No, the knight is lost. King d3 and still made. No, now played. It is going to be a win for White here. After all. Yeah, black was actually getting extremely close to the 50 move rule. White took the knight 4 moves before it would be declared a draw. But white does get a win. A win is a win is a win. And we see a draw here, of course, a fortress. So that wraps up round number 8. If we have a very quick look at the standings, we see that Michanek is leading the field with a perfect score of 9 out of 9. Then there's 4 players with 8 out of 9 right behind him. Ceesay, Jano, Kasper Pjorn, and Aram Hakobian. And Michanek is playing Aram Hakobian in round number 10 with the white pieces. So if he wins this one, I'm pretty sure if he wins this one, he wins the tournament. So yeah. This is not Grishuk, this is Alexei Sarana. Okay, we see d5 by Sarana, grabbing space in the center. Okay, so white has more space and the 2 bishops, but he does have these double pawns. Because g4, he's having a lot of space all over the board. But black could maybe try to control these dark squares over here. Maybe white wants to push for g5 at some point. Interesting strategic battle here. You know, if you're Aram, I guess he can be too unhappy about the outcome of the opening. Knight h3, nice move, anchoring in the knight on f4. Knight h5 is an option to stop that. So let's see how this one is going to continue. Knight h5 on the board. Black taking his time here. Wonder what white's plan is. Maybe king here. And yeah, once again, white having a lot of space and the 2 bishops. But what are you really going to do? You don't want to go f4, because then his pawn on e4 becomes weak. G5 also looks very difficult. So let's see how this one is going to continue. He goes king to h7. Okay, and a5. Yeah, black takes it. You could get the pawn back, but then you trade off the queens, and I don't know if that's really what you want. So I think Aram is doing a good job so far. If you don't take this pawn right away, you give black the chance to go bishop d7 and a4, and then that pawn is really difficult to get back. So he goes queen a2, trying to get back the pawn right away. Let's see, maybe something like this on rook b7. He goes knight f4. Okay, I guess white has to take, or take with the bishop first. If you take with the knight, black could decide to take with the pawn and anchor in the knight on the e5 square, which is what he does. Knight e5 now. Looking very, very nice here. You can also suddenly launch an attack here on the king side. Something like h5 maybe. Then queen g5, recapture, this is under attack. So let's see, I think this is looking good for Aram. He goes bishop d7, okay, taking now. Rook b8 maybe, trying to go rook b2. Everything is really loose in the white position. Maybe you have to go rook a2 to protect everything. But then rook b3 or a5. Looking very, very good for Aram. Ilbar showing minus 1.9. So if Aram wins this game, they would blow the tournament wide open. He would join Sarana in the lead, and many others could catch up as well. He pushes his pawn up the board, bishop d1, but that hangs the pawn on c4. You can then take here though, but knight hops back. He goes a3 instead, preparing rook b2. Very nice move. Yeah, rook b2 will be very strong. Yeah. So let's see. King g1 played. Rook b2. Yeah, now if you take, this pawn promotes. So let's see what he's gonna do. Yeah, it's just lost. King of 1. You can take the pawn on c4. Rook's crushing, then you have bishop b5 coming in. Black should be winning this one, but he still has to close it out. I think c4 looks like the move. Just take another pawn. That's what I would think. And then you also have stuff like knight d2 and knight b3. Take the pawn. He's taking his time here. I don't know exactly what he's thinking about. Yeah, he does take the pawn after all. And bishop e2. Okay. White is still completely stuck. But bishop e5 looks like a nice move now. Yeah, he does it. Because if you take, there's knight takes f3 in between. So let's see. Yeah, it takes an f3. King has to move. Then you recapture. You're up a million pawns. Or it's actually 2, but this is gonna drop off. This is gonna drop off. If you take here, there's also rook b2, which is nasty. So it's looking very, very good for Aram, but once again, he still has to win this one. Okay, and 95 on the board, hitting the pawn on h3. Okay, knight c4, defending the pawn. King d3, hitting the knight, maybe. Not over just yet. Rook b8, nice move. Trying to go rook b2. I think now it is kind of over. Rook b2 cannot be stopped. Then you also hop in with the knight. Everything looks winning here. Take, check. He takes, yeah, rook b1, f3, and that is a win. Rook b2, right, and then this pawn is going to promote. So Aram wins. He moves to 9 out of 10 and joins Sarana in the lead. Let's see how Jano and Purun are doing. The winner of this game will join Sarana and Aram in the lead. So Jano with the white pieces against Purun. King h2 now, king h2. This cannot be protected. Will Jano win once again and move to 9 out of 10? Wait, no, but now you take here. Wait, that looks like a mistake. Take, check. He gives a check there, also fine. King of 1, where do you queen d3, I guess. And as soon as the white king moves here, you take here with check. Yeah, queen d3 is a draw. Pure, yeah. I think both of them are not happy with a draw, but a draw is still better than a loss, you know? So they move to 8.5 out of 10. Let's have a look how Raunak and Shugirov are doing. If one of them, it looks like Shugirov is just up a piece, so he's gonna win this game. You can take, still tricky, knight g6, king e8 though. You can take, but black is up a pawn. This knight is kind of off. Maybe this knight is just, but now this is dropping off. Wait, take the pawn. Wait, knight can go back to c5. Wait, and g4 is dropping off. Wait, but, bishop g6. Okay, he takes the pawn there. Knight c5, move the knight back. Should be a draw, but not over just yet. Okay, knight d3. Wait, there goes the b pawn. And wait, what? Why would you not take? D3 maybe? F3. And it's just gonna be a draw. And a draw between Raunak and Sanan Shugirov. Both players moving to 8 out of 10. A good score, but not good enough if they want to win the tournament. Still a couple games going on. We have Shimanov, who is winning, I guess, because this pawn is just way too strong. He's very far advanced up the board. Rook g6, bishop f5 though, rook g5. How do you win though? Rook h5? Okay, but now there's no way to proceed. Wait, h7, black blundered. Now this pawn, you just, yeah. g3, and he should be winning this one. There's no way for black to ever enter, so he's just going to bring the king back. Gives a check to c5. Yeah, just take an e4. And indeed, Shima is just going to win this game. A7, A8. And, I mean, a queen will be a bit too much to deal with. Black is playing on here, but of course it is completely over. And yeah, a known checkmating mechanism. And Shimonov indeed does win his game. He moves to 8 out of 10. There's one more game going on. Oh, and White trying to checkmate here with the knight and bishop. Knight f7. No, that's not the move. Wait, knight g6. This is not the move, though. The mechanism is to go knight f7 and then bishop h7. And, you know, there's a whole process, but that is how you should start. Anyway, that wraps up round number 10. If we have a very quick look at the standings, we see that Michanik is still leading together with Aram. Actually, they have the same tiebreak, which is kind of surprising because Michanik was leading the entire tournament. So anyway, if one of these wins their last game, they have a good chance of winning it all. So let's watch Aram. We've watched a lot of games of Michanik throughout the tournament. So let's watch Nijal Aramakovian in this game. He's playing Rasmus Svana from Germany, a strong grandmaster who recently competed in the World Blitz Championship and who did fairly well there, I believe. So let's see how this one is going to go. So this is a known line in the Marshall. White's up a pawn, but Black has a lot of compensation. Black is pretty... I think White has misplayed this. Yeah, now bishop f3 is coming, which looks tough to deal with. And if you go, let's say, knight d2, then rook ae8. Black is very, very active. I think here, the move is rook to e4. Because then if you go bishop f5, suddenly your queen is trapped. But here, like, bishop f3 is a threat. Once again, knight d2, rook ae8. Yeah, so bishop f3 is probably not the end of the world. Probably just go queen f1. But it looks like Black has quite a nice position here. Rook a8 is always a move, but I guess you just go knight d2. So let's see how Rasmus will proceed here. Okay, lots of options here. Rook a8 was chosen. I guess knight d2. You don't really mind this trade at all. Rook e6 played by Rasmus. Trying to double the rooks. Nice move. Okay, takes on d5 you have to take. Maybe f3 then. Bishop h f3 I guess has to be played. Otherwise Black gets this and then you cannot get f3 in anymore. Right, so bishop f3, bishop h3 has to be played, queen f2. And Black still has compensation. He has the two bishops. But it feels like White has solidified the position over the last couple of moves. Queen f5, nice move. Hitting the pawn on d3, which becomes awkward to protect. You don't want to go d4, because then you're just completely stuck here. Knight b3, chosen by Aram. Okay, so you can take the pawn here. But then White gets active with rook a1, hitting the knight. Just as a side note, we will also be keeping an eye out on the game of Michanik. Let's see real quick how he is doing. Michanik looks approximately even. It will be very tough for him to win this game. So I feel like if Aram can get a win here, he will win the tournament. Yeah. Okay, so... And Rasmus getting low on the clock. Aram has almost a minute up. He's almost up a minute up. Okay, queen takes d3, rook a1, hitting the queen. Knight is queen c4. Okay, nice move. Now, what do you do? Like, rook d4, I guess you just move the queen back somewhere, here or here. Bishop c5. But still, like, if you take... Like, White's king is a little bit airy. If the queen suddenly lands on e2 or, you know, in a distant future, that could be awkward to deal with. And if you take with a knight, then this hangs. Right, queen takes c5, maybe rook e2? Wait, very tough position for Aram. If you take with a knight, you hang this pawn. You don't want to do that. Takes with the queen. Alright, so after this everything is still protected. Let's see what Rasmus is gonna do. If Rasmus wins this game, he comes in with a tie. You know, if Rasmus wins this game, Rasmus could win Title Tuesday. Goes Queen A4, hitting the pawn. You cannot play A3 that hangs your knight. You can trade the black's gonna recapture, I guess, with the pawn, hitting this. Let's see what Aram is gonna do here. Very, very tricky position. 1:35 for white, 51 seconds for black. So Ram having the time advantage. Let's see if he can use it. Okay, how do you protect this pawn? Knight C2, Knight C1, there's Queen C2. Not looking pretty. Oh, and by the way, I see here that Aram offered a draw earlier, but Rasmus declined it. So Rasmus, yeah, he really needs to win here. 9 out of 11 will not really bring him anywhere, but if he wins, he can win the tournament, like outright. But a draw will maybe get him in like 5th place or something. So, but on the other hand, for Aram, if he draws this game, he still has a chance of winning. So knight d4, hitting the rook. I guess you have to take and take this pawn on a2, but then your queen is a little bit off. Okay, how do you protect this pawn? Queen b4, yeah, the queen on a2 is a little bit misplaced. How do you bring it back? Queen c4, okay, trade. I guess d takes, but then g4 you have to deal with. Although there's okay, g4. Now if white gets 2 moves, your bishop is getting trapped, so you have to play f5 or h5. This could get tricky. f5 chosen by Rasmus, but wait, take with a knight. Wait, what was that? Looking very, very tricky now for Rasmus. Only 24 seconds. h5, but rook e7. How do you protect this pawn? Feels like Rasmus has lost control here of the game. Rook e7. Will Aram find it? It looks like the move. Gotta go, dude. 29 seconds for white. Rook e7 looks like the move. Let's see if he's going to choose it. Staying his time here. You cannot trap the bishop somehow, because this is under attack. If you go knight back, you hang this. Rook e7 on the board. He's hitting this pawn. If you take, I guess you take it maybe. No, fg. There's this. Take. Aha. So if you take, he wants to take. And take, but there's rook takes f5. It should be a draw, but white is definitely better here. Rook g6. King g2 played. White is definitely still pushing here for the win, but it should be a draw. King h7 chosen by Rasmus. King g3, maybe rook f1. Rook f1, you got king h6, but rook f4. Now you're losing the pawn because rook f6. But black does get pretty active with king g5. King g5 takes rook e2 or rook e3. It should be a draw. Rook e3, king f2, rook h3, king g2, rook d3. It should be a draw. Black is just way too active. Rook d6, but now just take here. It's an insta draw. Okay, just take, and it's gonna be all she wrote. So yeah. Oh, don't checkmate on one. Don't hang checkmate. Nah, it's just gonna be a draw. Oh wait, but rook g2. Wait, rook g2 is still. Black could have still tried, although nah, it would have been a draw. Never mind. I was saying black could have still tried here. And rook c2, but you just go king e1. But anyway, Aram caps off this tournament at 9.5 out of 11. Let's see real quick how Alexei Sarana is doing. Sarana is already done with his game. We missed that. And Sarana also drew. So we will have to wait what happens there. We see that Piorun won. He finishes on 9.5. So still a couple games going on here. We see here Indian lad against Igor Lishi, but this game is not relevant for the standings. They have no chance of catching the leaders. But yeah, the top 3 is going to be Mishinik, who is Alexis Sarana, Aram Hakobian, and Kasper Piorun. The question is, in what order? Like, who has the better tiebreak? Going into the final round, Alexis Sarana and Aram Hakobian were leading. They had 54 tiebreak points. They had a better tiebreak than Piorun, who came a little bit from behind. But it really depends on how all of their previous opponents performed in the very last round. Rasmus probably comes in 4th, which should still win him a prize. He probably has the best tiebreak, but we will have to wait for that. So we're just going to watch the final games here. A draw here between Indian lad and Igor Lishi. Then we have Anton Demchenko against Bayern, which is winning for black, because this pawn is just marching down the board, and Bayern does win, caps off the tournament at 8 out of 11. A couple more games going on. This is a stalemate. Black was winning here, but he played g4, which just leads to a draw because of this little trick. It's a stalemate. I think it's winning if you go like king e5 and just sort of outmaneuver the white king. Then eventually you sort of win. But g4 is not the way to go. This game ended in a draw. Then one last game going on. We see these players duking it out in rook versus rook. Always very exciting. Keeping everyone waiting. But this should just end in a draw. The only way either side could lose is if one of them would magically hang their rook, or if they lose on time. Losing on time is probably more likely, or disconnect. But yeah. I don't know. There's nothing really that can be done against this, but I feel like... Wait, what? We have the final standings, and congratulations to Hikaru Nakamura, who wins this edition of Title Tuesday with a whopping score of 1 out of 1. In second place comes Van der Reen, also with 1 out of 1, and Rasmus Vane comes in third, also with 1 point out of 1 game. Just kidding, you guys. There's got to be a glitch. Wait, for some reason this is off. I have no idea why. Let me refresh. This is a draw. Wait, what? You guys can't see it, but I can. The winner of this week's Title Tuesday is Alexis Sarana with 9.5 out of 11. He finishes on the same score as Aram Akobian and Kasper Puren, but he had a better tiebreak. In second place comes Aram Akobian, and in third place Kasper Puren. And in fourth place, Dimitri Andrakin, who has the best tiebreak of players on 9 points. So those players will be receiving their prizes. Congratulations to them, especially to Alexis Sarana, who once again wins this week's edition of Title Tuesday. So yeah, you guys. Yeah, big congratulations. Alexis Sarana was leading throughout, so it feels deserved that he does win this one. But let's see. All right, you guys. But at any rate, that does wrap up this week's Title Tuesday. I hope you all enjoy watching. If you enjoy my commentary, feel free to give me a follow on GM Benjamin Bok here on Twitch. And yeah, we will see you next week again in Title Tuesday.